Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. A little after 9 this week, about I think it's 9:22 on the clock on the computer. Thanks for tuning in. Been about a week. We're going to talk basketball. We're not going to spend a ton of time this episode on the actual Cyclone game and Hawkeye game because it's been so long ago. We'll talk more recap season, more looking forward. Iowa State, and towards the end here, we'll talk. Iowa State has 2 new coaches to replace. No players in portal yet, but that's not realistic. Somebody will go in. But they did lose seniors. Hawkeyes same way. How to replace Sturts, things like that. We'll talk that stuff towards the end. And coming up here, I'll bring Trevor in here just a second. But coming up, we are introducing 2 new segments tonight. Ryan's Rants and then Trevor's Tantrum. Okay, we'll see how those names stick or go, but there's kind of something new here. Give ourselves each a couple minutes to talk, and then we'll kind of have a discussion on that topic, and then we'll kind of get into the regular podcast. So, just welcome Trevor in on the road, and also the other thing I want to thank. This week was really good for all over the country. Nevada, 23 episodes in California. So like I said last week, Trev, it keeps going up actually. Texas had some, North Carolina had some. It is crazy where people listen to and everything. And we do appreciate everybody that listens on podcast. I know people listen on Facebook when we're live or even after. I know some people listen to the short clip on Steve Shetler Media. We always want to thank Steve and him for getting us on as well. And then there are YouTube as well, and then the shorts and everything. One of our shorts last week, Trev, I can't remember which one it was over 14,000 on TikTok, which is crazy. I don't know why 14,000 people listen to us, but
they wanted to see your pretty face, I guess.
Yeah, because we're having video issues, connectivity issues with Trevor right now with everything, and it's perfectly fine. But yeah, you get my face and only my face, so it's not good. It's really gray and it's really long right now. Do you need a haircut? I don't have school on Friday, so I'll probably try to go get it on Friday. So we get Good Friday off. So
there you go. Well, good.
So what have you been up to, Trev?
Just in Southern California right now. The reason I was delayed is life on the road. I was finishing up laundry here at the hotel, so clothes were taking a few minutes longer to dry than I expected. But yeah, I'm here. I'm staying the weekend in Ontario, California, and then next week I will be down in San Diego. So I know I told you before we got started, I'll be out next week, but you'll find someone to get on for a Masters preview and a lot of golf talk next week.
Yeah, and there is a little golf news. We will wait till next week to really address the Tiger news and everything. Wish him the best. He's got some issues, and we'll discuss that more next week with a couple, maybe Zach, or I'll try to get maybe RJ on again, talking golf and everything. So we are going to start right now with my segment, Ryan's Rants. These are going to be about 2 minutes long or so. Time is kind of irrelevant, but just kind of a short monologue, and then we'll discuss it, and then Trevor will do his. So mine is going to be about just college athletics, and just all that anybody cares about are the playoffs in football and March Madness in basketball. So, if you don't get to the playoff in football, the bowl games don't matter. Just like, Iowa State didn't even play in a bowl game because they really, truly don't matter anymore. The rule, and they've incorporated the bowl games with the playoffs, so those matter. But, going 7-6 or 8-5 or, 9-3 or 10-2 in certain instances, and you get to the Pop-Tarts Bowl or you get to, the Holiday Bowl, those type of things, many players, many teams, you were just short of making the playoffs. Like not this last year where Iowa State didn't play, but the year before where Iowa State went to the Big 12 championship game. They got beat. They ended up going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Another win, first 10-win season in Iowa State history. But in the big picture of college football, no one talked about them except for the game itself because it was super exciting and they won by 1 point and lots of points. But you didn't make the playoff. You weren't talked about for that month and a half. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. And then just like this year in basketball, Iowa State, top 10 all year, great season. You have a few hiccups here and there, but you're playing great basketball. You play a great game in the semifinals against Arizona, one of the games of the year. You get to the NCAA tournament. You're a 2 seed. You're playing in St. Louis. You've got it set up. St. Louis for 2 games, Chicago 2 games, then Indianapolis. All close, all drivable for your fans. Everybody's excited. You're playing some of your best basketball. And in your first 3 minutes against 15 seed Tennessee State, your best player hurts his ankles, done for the season. And I truly believe if they would have got to the championship game, 5 days from now, whatever it is, maybe play, but that was it. He wasn't playing last weekend, and it would have been not 100% this weekend. So I truly believe he was done for the season. Now, they weren't going to come out and say that, and I don't blame them. They shouldn't have. But you beat Tennessee State bad. You don't play great against Kentucky to start, but then you turn it on and win by 20. You get to the Sweet 16 in Chicago. You play 6 seed Tennessee, and you are just outmanned, which is a little bit disappointing. But when you're All-American, 6'9", do everything player isn't playing, it makes it very difficult. I don't know if they would have won that night. I have to lean towards probably not, just the way everything happened and how big Tennessee was. I was at the game. It was fun. It was incredible how big, I got there for the Michigan game too, how big Michigan is, how big Tennessee was compared to like Alabama and then Iowa State. And then if you look at the Final Four, we'll discuss it. Those teams are super big that are playing this weekend as well. But was it a good season? This is becoming a reoccurring theme. You're a better seed, losing to a lower seed. Illinois a couple of years ago. Last year, you lost to Ole Miss. This year, you lost to Tennessee. They're 1-7 all time, and getting to the Elite Eight. So only one time in their history have they actually won that game. That was in 2000 when they went on to lose against Michigan State. And then kind of on the flip side, you have the Hawkeyes, 500 in the Big Ten, a little bit better, win one game in the tournament, but then lose the next one. You're in the 8-9 seed. You're happy to get in, but the first game's a toss-up. Now you're playing the 1 seed, most likely to get beat. You pull the upset, and then you have the best draw possible against a rival Nebraska. Great game, win it. Now you're playing in the Elite Eight. Chance to go to the Final Four. I believe you had the lead with 7.5 minutes to go, or were at least within a basket. Really close, had a great chance to get to the Final Four. Who actually had the better season? I know who had the better ending and who went farther. That's the Hawkeyes. But did they really have a better season? I don't know. But if you ask the fan base, it's not close. Iowa had a way better season than Iowa State. But if you look deeper, did they? And then the perfect example of this is the Iowa women. The Iowa women had a great regular season. 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. They get to the Big Ten championship. They lose to UCLA by almost 50. Now that's where it started to go bad. But UCLA is one of the best teams in the country, and they're playing this weekend in the Final Four to prove that, and destroyed everybody. Struggled in the first round at home against Farley Dickinson, and then lost in the second round to Virginia. Did they have a great season, good season? The answer is yes. Top 10-ish, but got beat real early in the tournament at home. So did they have a good season? I don't know. That's my rant tonight. Is it all about March? Is it all about the football playoff? Or do you have to look at the entire season? Trev?
Well, my rebuttal to you would be is if Iowa State would have won that game, is this your opening rant?
Probably not.
Okay, that's what I thought. Now going back to the Iowa comparison that you made for the Iowa State women, it was a good regular season, but they crapped the bed in March. So no, it really wasn't that good of a season. For the Iowa State men, we've talked about it before. You've been on that Sweet 16 line for a number of years now and just haven't been able to get over the hump. So to me, Iowa men obviously had the better season because March does mean more. Playoffs in sports do mean more. The bowl games that you talked about have lost a lot of interest. But I would say a little bit rebuttal to that is Iowa versus Vanderbilt. This past bowl season was a big-time bowl game for Iowa fans. I know we were all jacked up to beat Piave or Dago and his crap talking and all that and shut him up in that bowl game. So it all depends on how you look at it. But, for the Iowa men, it was a hell of a season. I know you were going to do Trevor's tantrums. I didn't know it was going to be like a weekly thing that you wanted me to do. Otherwise, I would have been a little bit more prepared. But I do think I'm going to be able to interject here in a little bit with some timing coming up on your rundown, I will say.
Sounds good. I mean, it's a debate, and you can argue it either way. I mean, I'm not right, wrong, and different. You can argue that the wins in the regular season matter, and they do because you're going to earn that seed. But yet, when it comes down to it, does it truly matter what seed you are when you get in the tournament? You just got to win the games, and then you never know how it all breaks out. Now, this year, it didn't really break out weird or anything, but there weren't the one double-digit seed that made the Sweet 16 was Texas, and they aren't an underdog. The Hawkeyes were the underdog in the Sweet 16. Well, those are SEC Big Ten teams. Those aren't underdogs. They're seeded lower. And then the argument is Texas barely got in the tournament, won a couple games. Well, is that mid-major team that, like a Belmont out of the Missouri Valley that was lost like 5 games all year, would they have done that? Well, you'll never know, but a team, a middle-of-the-road Texas team, a middle-of-the-road Iowa team, or if Iowa State's in that position, which they have been before, who deserves to get in the tournament? What are you rewarding, mediocrity or greatness? But the mediocre Big Ten team or SEC team or Big 12 or ACC has better players from 1 through 10 than Belmont, Drake, Wichita State, VCU. You can now one game, one time. Can those teams beat others? Absolutely. That's the beauty of basketball compared to football. And that's why the NCAA tournament is so much fun to watch. Because if Iowa played Florida 10 times, Florida's probably going to win more times than not. But when they did play, when it mattered, the Hawkeyes won. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, with the Texas example, there is a good one we've talked about over the years. There's too many teams that make the tournament to begin with, but it is the fun of March. I mean, we're going to talk about some other games that took place too, and then the Final Four. But the field of whatever it is now, the exact number, you got the play-in games and the play-in teams. It's probably a little bit much, but when you see Texas and Iowa, as you said, teams that were a little bit middle of the pack of the Big Ten, the SEC, or some of the Big 12 schools or other conferences. As you mentioned, they just have better players most of the time than the Wichita States or some of the smaller schools. So it does make sense to get those teams in. I think in an ideal world, you'd do an Elite Eight or a Sweet 16 and play a best of 3 to really find out the best champion. But this is what makes it so much fun, though, in March. You get the buzzer beaters, the brackets, the survivor pools that you did, one that I'm still in.
Are you still in one?
Well, here's the deal, and I'll just tell you about it right now. There's 436 of us left.
Okay.
Winner takes $250,000.
Okay.
I'm still in, but here's the problem. Duke lost.
Right.
So I only have one team left.
So you can't win it.
Nope.
Like, if it gets to the championship game, you can't win it.
Yep. So I made my pick, just hoping for a miracle. So I picked Arizona. But if Duke had won, I was probably going to pick Duke to win over Illinois. Was kind of my game plan. And then I was going to hopefully Arizona beat Michigan, and then I could use Arizona.
Yeah.
But since Duke lost, I have no chance to win. I mean, I highly doubt all 436 of us are going to get knocked out this weekend. But I still
not with having to pick Arizona. Arizona is going to be the odds on. I don't know. That's going to be a 50-50 deal, but there's other teams that have UConn left. Other people have UConn left probably, and they'll pick UConn because they're actually, I think I did see that Illinois is favored in that game.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Illinois and Michigan are both favored by 1.5.
Yeah,
so they're toss-up games. I mean, coin flip essentially. But yeah, no, the survivor pools are fun. But yeah, it was. I did so many. I think next year what I'll have to do when you're in a big one like this, however many entries you have, once you get to the round of 32 or Sweet 16, at least what I'm going to do is I'm going to print off blank brackets, and I'm just going to fill in the teams that are left, and then I'm kind of going to map out how it works because on a couple of them I didn't do as good a job as I would have liked mapping out the future teams that I would need. I just had so many entries that a couple of them I was just kind of randomly picking, okay, I haven't used this team yet. And you can kind of get in trouble with combinations, whereas yours that you did, if we only have 30 or 40, by the end of the second day of the Sweet 16, just about everybody's out.
Right.
So you don't have to be as careful, I would say.
Right. But I will say this, and we ended up losing with Iowa State, and I had Michigan State picked earlier in the day, and I changed it. The only thing, and you had a couple entries, and I did too. The problem is when teams you think aren't going to go very far end up going very far. Like I'd used Illinois and Connecticut already, and then all of a sudden you're down to just a few teams, and I didn't want to pick Michigan yet and I didn't want to pick Arizona yet. But looking back, I think especially with that, like the one that happened with ours, it ended after the Sweet 16. I don't know if you have to just win and then hope for the best. And that's just my thinking. Now, again, with your big one that's winning 250,000 and lots of entries, you do have to, there's strategy because you need to, probably have picked Nebraska early in the tournament. You probably needed to pick.
Yeah, you got to take some chances.
Yeah, especially have more than one pick in a league. You got to take a chance with, some 6 seeds, some 7 seeds, some 8 seeds, things like, and maybe, just go with Vegas. And if there happens to be like a 6-11 game that's a 6.5 point favorite, you got to go with that 6.5 point favorite, even if it's a 6 seed. I think that's might be what you need to look at just a little bit because you've got to have teams left.
Yep. And that's, ideally I would have had, both Duke and UConn left in that game, but I used UConn earlier. So it was just the way it worked out, but it was still fun. It was interesting. I'm definitely going to be in more next year. It's just, you kind of live and learn this first time going through it, what the strategies are. The smaller ones, like you said, just survive. The bigger ones, you really got to map out your path, and then you got to hope for a little bit of luck too, obviously.
Yeah, because, people that had Duke have to be just fit to be tied. Like, you had the game won. If the kid throws it up to the scoreboard, they win. Anything but what he did. Hold on to it. Travel. At least make him take it out of bounds. I think that would have been better because you can set your defense. And
yeah, I was in my hotel yelling, and I was excited, and then I realized, oh crap, my Duke pick is out, so I'm screwed. I technically can't win now. But it was kind of funny because Brett was texting our group, and about halfway through that game or whatever, he's like, these games kind of stink today. I said, yeah, they do. And then, UConn just hung around, kept chipping away. And there at the end, that was one of the all-time great finishes to a March Madness game right there. That's what March is all about.
Yes, and it's 2 blue bloods, and it's, and I think we talked about it last week. Connecticut, once they get past this round of 32, they don't lose. And Duke, they had beat St. John's. Now they did, every time they beat St. John's, they haven't won a national championship, but that's just one of the steps. Speaking of good and great seasons or whatever, Duke for back-to-back years has had double-digit leads in the second half. Lost last year in the semifinals and then this year in the Elite Eight. Is that a byproduct of getting really young, the best young kids? Like the Boozer twins are freshmen. Last year, Cooper Flagg was a freshman. Actually, Cooper Flagg was supposed to be a freshman this year. He was actually a 17-year-old. He reclassified. Can you imagine if Flagg was on that team?
Yeah, that'd be a pretty amazing team, and they have a young head coach too, and I think he's a good coach. But
I do too. But
you wonder, you have back-to-back collapses like this. You wonder, can he ever get over the hump and get that monkey off his back? He seems like a really good young coach, but back-to-back years, these are the type of things that can really stick with the coach. And we could be looking up in 10 years, and he could still not have a title to his name, even if he's still there coaching Duke or somewhere else. So you just wonder sometimes when coaches, players in sports, when they have a couple of these or back-to-back chokes or whatever you want to call it, sometimes you wonder, can they overcome that?
Agreed. And I mean, Otzelberger just stood up on the podium. I don't know if it was right after the game or one of his things a little bit after was, we'll break through. We haven't got there yet, but our time is coming. And I agree with that. I mean, all indications are that he is coming back to Iowa State. They're going to announce extension here pretty soon. Bill Self is coming back to Kansas. North Carolina job, they're waiting because they're interested in Tommy Lloyd and Dusty May. I think that's two of the guys high on their list, and from what it seems is those two are at least willing to listen. So that's why they're waiting for that. And then, kind of the other basketball news, and kind of hit that real quick. Here in Iowa is Ben Jacobson is leaving Northern Iowa to come out west with you to go to Utah State. A little bit interesting, but not completely. He's 55 years old. If he's going to move, now's the time. That's a really good job from everything that I've seen and heard and read about in the last few days since he's announced that. And, like he said, he's in a different spot than he was 10, 15 years ago when these opportunities came. Both of his kids are adults. One just graduated from UNI, and I think he said the other one's 20. I don't know what he does or what he's doing, but, him and his wife, a chance, and the Utah State is going into the new look Pac-12, so he'll be in the same league as Gonzaga. So it's not like it is a league that's going to get more than one bid. Because that's the hard part about, when you're sitting there January 15th and in your heart you're getting ready to get on a bus and go to Bradley in Peoria, Illinois, this game does not matter. The only thing that matters are those 3 or 4 days in St. Louis. Now, small picture, they do matter because it sets yourself up easier to win that tournament in St. Louis. But I think they were the 6th seed and went on to win it. But that's got to be really hard for a coach that's super competitive, knowing that you can go 30-0 and you lose, you're not going to the tournament. And you can finish dead last in your league, and if you make a run, you're going. It all comes down to 3 or 4 days in St. Louis. That's got to be really hard because it wasn't always the case when Jacobson was a coach at UNI. That's a relatively new development in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's really tough for a coach, especially a good one, knowing that you're only going to get one team out of your conference. And as you mentioned, those games matter at the time because you could set yourself up for a better seed. But unless you win your tournament, you're not going more than likely in those scenarios. So, and you also said too, he's at that age where if he is going to do it, now's the time. I mean, these opportunities may not be there 5 years from now.
No, I would assume he's getting paid a little more. And then they've went through head coaches here. I think he's their 5th coach in 5 years. And I think they're looking at him to be a little bit more stability, but I don't know if he will or not. But if he goes 30-3 next year and gets to the Sweet 16, maybe he does get a call to a big boy job, and, one last round, and he's made lots of money, but that's life-changing money. You go from making, I don't know if this is right, $1 million a year in Cedar Falls, and now you're going to make $2 million a year in Logan, Utah. I think that's where that's at. And then let's just say Arizona's that Randy Bennett, his health thing is worse than he thought. Something's going on there right now. And he only lasts 1 year at Arizona State. You do really well, and Arizona State calls you. And now you get $5 million a year. Well, okay. And you're 56 years old and do that for 10 years and retire and go on your business. Can't blame anybody. So you just never know. And like you said, the time is right. He felt like he needed to do it and try it, and good for him.
Yeah, been at UNI a long time, so I know they're going to be sad to see him go, but definitely now's the time to do it. You can't blame the guy. Put a lot of years in at UNI, and now's a chance, a stepping stone, depending on how many years he's at Utah there, like you mentioned. Maybe he gets an even bigger job in Arizona State or one of those other schools out west that may look at him if he has a really good season or two there.
Oh, absolutely. And then, in connection with that, Iowa State's assistant coach, Kyle Green, who spent 16 years with Jacobson, and maybe it was a little bit of a holdover. He might have been there with McDermott as well. I don't know, but I think he spent 16 years at UNI. AJ's dad, AJ's number up in the rafters now, is going back there, got hired today to be the head coach. So Iowa State loses two of their assistants. J.R. Blount goes to San Diego to be the head coach, and then Kyle Green goes to UNI to be the head coach. So obviously that's great when your program is losing your assistants to go be head coaches. That's really good for your program, and really when you're going to find new assistants, you can say, hey, come here, have success, do a great job. You can go be a head coach. Because that's what everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, 90% of coaches, or probably 95% of coaches, would want to run their own program someday. And these are just two opportunities that are now coming to Iowa State. And I don't know enough about their behind the scenes staff, if he's going to promote a couple guys and then bring in new young guys, or if he's going to go get some guys. I would expect at least one guy he's going to have to go bring in. Usually you don't have two guys ready to go, but I expect one guy to come in, maybe two. And sometimes that's not all bad. Those guys had been with TJ for all 5 years, and you bring in new guys and they do things just a little bit different. They have different relationships, and maybe they bring just a little bit different way of doing things, and maybe how to run a defense, or what are some counters to what they're doing to make them even better.
Yeah, just stepping stone jobs is what this is. It's just the natural way that coaches are going to look to move up the ladder. When you have a staff at Iowa State, or any of these schools, you can't expect everybody to stay forever. And it's like the NFL too. Most of these guys want to promote their really good coaches. Obviously, they want to hang on to them as long as they can, but they know when they're ready, and they understand it because they went through the same process at some point in their coaching career where it was time to leave and time to take that next step and test yourself to see if you are ready to be a head coach or not.
Yeah, I mean, TJ, he was an assistant at Iowa State under McDermott and Hoiberg. Then he left. Then he came back. And then I think he actually might have left and came back again under Prohm, and then went on to South Dakota State, and then to UNLV, and then back to Iowa State. That's, both San Diego and UNI are those jobs. You kind of like South Dakota State. That's your first job. Now, Kyle Green's different. He's a little bit older. Obviously, he's got grown kids and everything. He can kind of move wherever. But J.R. Blount is a relatively young guy in the profession. Go win at San Diego, and then you go get, per se, like a UNLV job or a Utah State or a Colorado State, and then you make that jump to the Big Ten or whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the way it's got to be. And you wonder, with Iowa having their really good season too, some of their assistants going to be looking to go elsewhere. Obviously, with Josh Sash being there, I'm sure he's going to stick around another season. But I mean, if they continue to have success, I mean, that's a guy to look for, that maybe he's going to take a job here at some point.
And he's been a head coach a couple different places. Obviously he was here at Indian Hills, and but then the other thing is, I mean, right or wrong, TJ Otzelberger's phone is ringing, and so is Ben McCollum's. Now, I truly believe neither one are leaving. But to say that their phone call didn't ring, you're very naive. I would be shocked if North Carolina didn't at least call Ben McCollum. And, I don't know him at all. I don't, if that's a dream of his. And guess what? Sometimes, they go interview, or Dusty May says no, Tommy Lloyd says no, two other guys say no, and then they come back to McCollum with the offer he can't refuse, or TJ. Things happen. I mean, that's just reality. And then guess what, Josh Sash, do you want to go coach at North Carolina?
Yeah, do you want to go coach at North Carolina, or do you want to maybe I don't know if they would hand him the Iowa job, but you never know in those situations. Yeah, I mean, I think North Carolina's having – we'll see what happens with the two coaches that are being mentioned, because if they both turn down North Carolina, it's – both those coaches are in pretty good spots, though, right now. I mean, Arizona's not a football school, so you can – Tucson's a good place to be in winter.
They've won forever. I mean, they're a basketball school. I mean, they have a national championship. And then Michigan is good. I mean, they've been to the Final Four recently. They've been to, they don't, I think their last championship is 89, but obviously Fab Five, they went to the Final Four with John Beilein, I believe. That wasn't that many years ago. They've been good. Yes, it's a football school, but the Big Ten resources, that helps basketball too. Don't kid yourself. And he's proven this is only year or two there, I believe. And he's in the Final Four, and they have a legit chance to win the whole thing. They're really good.
Yeah, if you think about who's got one of the best basketball jobs in America, I'd have to go with Nate Oates, because he's at Alabama. That's a football school. All the pressure's on Kalen DeBoer. Yeah. Nate Oates kind of not flying under the radar. They obviously want to do well in basketball, but he doesn't have the pressure that DeBoer does with the football program. So that's where you want to be. You want to be at like a football school, but you're still a top 10-ish basketball program, getting paid a lot of money, and you don't quite have the same amount of pressure.
Right, but you have the resources to get whatever you need. Rick Barnes kind of talked about that in his pressers around the Iowa State game. Is someone asking, what is it like being, is it tough dealing with when you have football school? Tennessee thinks they're a football school, and they've been to the playoffs, so they are. But Rick Barnes just went to his third straight Elite Eight. He hasn't went over that hump yet. Now he has. He's been to the Final Four at Texas. But no one's complaining that Tennessee's not doing good enough in basketball. They're getting the Elite Eight every year. I mean, that's great. And your football team is keeping the pressure off, because they made the playoff 2 years ago. They were still pretty good last year. They're looking to be good every year. And, hey, don't rock the boat. Your resources are coming. You're doing really well. You're getting paid, like you said, you're getting paid a lot of money. And, if one year you only make the tournament and don't get to the Sweet 16 or Final Four, you're just fine. Just don't make it a regular occurrence. You got to have your wins. But, yeah, I think – and the other thing with this NIL and transfer portal, being at North Carolina doesn't matter as much. Brent Bloom on Cyclone Fanatic has just a great point and message, and I think this is 100% accurate. When we were all kids growing up, you wanted to play for Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, UCLA. You wanted the programs. Today, how much money and how much playing time? That's all that matters. If BYU comes in and pays the best player $8 million a year, he's going to BYU. He doesn't care that BYU doesn't have the history that Kansas does. Doesn't care one bit. He's going to play every minute, and he's going to get paid $8 million. I'll go play for BYU. And if Colorado State decided to do that, guess what that best player is going to do? He's going to go play for Colorado State. And you could put in you could put in Tennessee in that, and Alabama, Arizona State, Texas Tech. They don't care that it's North Carolina. Now, if North Carolina pays him the most amount of money, then he's going to go to North Carolina. The program doesn't matter near as much as it did 10, 20, 30 years ago.
No, the program doesn't matter as much. I mean, if you get some diehard family bloodlines,
yeah,
you might still be able to get the player. But, if you're competing, if you're one of the top players and it's down to 3 schools and one of them's paying $1 million more, you're probably going with that one. Whereas if if it's close and then it's North Carolina, that may give you the edge because of the history. And if Michael Jordan gives you a call, obviously you might say yes. But it's not like it used to be when we grew up. I mean, there was the top schools that you wanted to go to, and then there was just kind of then there was your home state schools like Iowa and Iowa State, and then it was just kind of everybody else. But now we kind of know who has the money right now, but we don't know who's going to have money in 5 years or 10 years with some of these programs. I mean, that it could change year to year pretty drastically, and it does make it interesting. It makes it different, but I think kind of exciting in a way, though, too, because who knows what could be the next program that comes up and is a top-tier program for 5 or 10 years running.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about on this podcast growing up, hey, if I'm the best football player, I'm going to go play at Notre Dame. Obviously money wasn't, just because I watched them win the national title in '88 and then just, those years with Lou Holtz in the early 90s, them in Florida State and Miami and Nebraska. And I mean, those are who you wanted to go play for. And then if you weren't good enough there, then you go to Iowa State. That's your next, like you said, then you go to the home school. And then if you're not good enough there, then you just go to any school to take you. And then you're not good enough to do anything, and you just go to college and have fun and go do whatever, which is what 99% of people do. But when you're 10 years old, that's what you think. And unfortunately today, it's not unfortunate, it's just different. If my kid was in that situation, I mean, you have your school you want to go to and you go listen to them and everything. But if someone's going to offer you more to do the same thing, we've talked about this. If the next water company offers you double your salary to go do the same job, but you might have to move from Colorado to South Carolina, guess what you're probably going to go do? Probably going to go to South Carolina. If a teaching job opened up and paid me triple amount of money and happened to be in New Mexico, guess what? I'd think about it. That's just what you have to do. And when and then my thing is when you're young like that and you have no responsibilities but play basketball or football. This isn't just a basketball thing. This is anything. Go enjoy it. Go learn. Going and moving across the country and living somewhere else and learning how other people do it is a great, great thing. And you've done that with your life, moving to Colorado. I've never done that. I've lived in Adair, Iowa. I've lived in Ames, Iowa. I've lived in Pella, Iowa. I've lived in Oskaloosa, Iowa. I've lived in Eldon, Iowa. That's 4 places I've lived in my life. So I haven't strayed very far.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that either. And it's moving out of state's a pretty big deal, especially for some people. It's, some people like it, some people don't. It just depends on who you are. But yeah, that's the ever-changing landscape of college sports. Football, basketball are the two that we focus on the most. But kind of goes for all sports. I mean, I don't know what NIL is like for some of these lesser sports to get less attention and money. I have no idea, but it's constantly changing. And to your overall point, North Carolina doesn't mean what it did when we were growing up. I mean, that was them and Duke. I mean, that was the pinnacle. Kansas was in there, and those programs still matter. And when we see the logo, we still kind of get that feeling with those programs. But I don't know if the younger generation does.
No, I just look at my son. He's 13. He's really good at sports and he likes sports. And like you ask him after the game, he'll know the score and everything, but you ask him if he watched it. No, like he could care less to watch the game. I went to the game Saturday or on Friday night, and then Saturday morning I picked him up to go to our family Easter birthday party deal. And I go, did you watch the game last night when I picked him up? He said, no. Saw they lost. Yeah, Tennessee got him pretty good, didn't they? Yeah, I mean, so he knew, and he goes, I kind of followed along and stuff, but he just doesn't want I'll be sitting here watching a game. Hey, you want to come down and watch the game with me? No, it's no interest in it, and it's just weird. But it's different. Like when we grew up, we had to watch it on TV. Now they get instant feedback on their phone. Whether they're watching the game or not, they know how to get to the CBS app or just type it in. Hey, what's the score of the Iowa State game or Iowa game? It doesn't matter what game. You fill it in, and in 30 seconds they have the score. And they have who did what, and they have it all. And you don't have to watch the game like we did growing up.
Yeah, when we grew up, you either had to watch the game or you had to put in a blank VHS tape and tape it. That was the only way we could get by with it.
That, or you just waited until Sports Center and watched Sports Center.
Yep.
Then you saw the score.
And that was it. And yeah, I mean, I know NBA, I hear a little bit of talk just from the sports shows I listen to. They say the YouTube channel for the NBA is super popular because a lot of young kids, they don't watch the whole games, but they watch the 5 or 8 minute highlights of the games. And that's how they consume NBA.
I think that's what Tyler does. Like, if you really, he'll watch the game in 10 minutes, or at least at the highlights or whatever. All right, let's kind of move on to the Final Four and our predictions and kind of overview of the whole tournament.
Well, hold up. Here's where Trevor's tantrum's got to interrupt you a little bit.
Okay, there we go. We got Trevor's tantrum.
Now, how in the world are we not going to go back and talk at least a little bit about Iowa's Elite Eight run? I know you said it's been a few days, but I got to call you out here. If this was Iowa State, we'd be discussing it. So we gotta spend a few minutes here.
We will. At the end, we got the Cyclones and the Hawkeyes recap / look ahead.
Well, I saw you had, and I also saw you had Iowa State listed first, and that's part of it. You can't. There's no way we could start with Iowa State. Let's do it right now. Let's go through Iowa, because that I'm going to insert my my tantrum a little bit here. Iowa had an amazing run, and just some things that I had written down. Every game outside the Clemson game, every game had a bunch of drama. Go back to the Florida game, you had the punch that wasn't a punch, and you had the coaches getting into it in the 3. Nebraska, you had those final few minutes where Iowa comes back, and then Hoiberg only has 4 on the floor for whatever reason, just miscommunication there. And then in the Illinois game, you had that 11 or 12-minute horn delay. They couldn't get the horn to shut off. And then Iowa takes the lead, I think, by 4 at half. And I thought Iowa's going to win it. Every game has had drama, and they've come out on top, and they went into lead with half, because what I was really worried about, and I know both teams probably were, was during that big horn delay, well, how were these teams going to come out and play after that? And Iowa came out, made some baskets, then Illinois made some, and then I think Iowa, like I said, went in with the 4-point lead. I really thought at that point Iowa might actually pull this off and get to the Final Four. I was actually looking up hotel rooms for Brett, Vincent, Mike in Indianapolis on my phone, and I had one found about 20 minutes from downtown it was a Hilton that had 3 beds in it, because if Iowa had pulled that win off, I think some of those guys, if not all of them, would have at least gone for the Saturday Final Four game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you should. I was giving them all kinds of crap for not getting on a Houston plane ticket, getting on a plane and getting to Houston for Saturday night. Like, if Iowa State was in that, I'd have got to Houston somehow. No, I mean, the Hawkeyes had a great, and like you said, every game had its, and that's every game you watch, but the Hawkeye games in particular had that horn delay. And then the rest of the game, they had to use the air horns out of a can. So right. You can't make that up.
No, you can't. It was, and that's right. I thought, well, here's another dramatic thing in the game. I'm like, they're going to pull this off. And my final point here was, the younger people that are probably in junior high-ish age, this is kind of their first experience, or one of their first big experiences of Iowa basketball in March Madness. People that are our age or older, we've seen some tough times. Fran brought the program out of the basement, but he could never take it to the next level. It looks like McCollum might be able to, obviously in his first year, but fans my age, your age, and older, if you would have told them before the season, not only is McCollum going to lead you to March Madness, you're going to make your first Sweet 16. Oh, wait, not only that, you're going to be in the Elite Eight with 7 minutes left leading.
Yeah.
Iowa fans would have got out their wallets and said, how much money does the program need? Here's my checkbook. What's the amount you need me to write? I mean, that's for people that are our age. I mean, I don't think anybody thought Elite Eight was possible. And it was an amazing run. And I know we'll talk about replacements of players at the end, like you had mentioned, but I kind of had to interrupt here because we got to spend a little bit of time about Iowa making the Elite Eight run.
Yeah, and that is 100% correct on the money thing. What they just did, if they can't get that place sold out now, coming up next year, they still struggled this year getting people to come there, and understandably so. First year in a new, I don't believe they'll have trouble next year, and I don't believe that their NIL budget will go down. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to go up. Now there is a question because of what happened to the women's team at the end of the season and what happened to the men's team at the end of the season, do some people jump ship off the women's bandwagon and jump on the men's bandwagon?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely going to happen. I forgot to look up the numbers. I think the women may have still outdrawn the men during the regular season for attendance. I could be mistaken on that, but I expect that to flip next season. I do expect the men to take the lead now, finally, after however many years it's been. McCollum's bringing that energy. I've seen a bunch of posts about bigger recruits looking to come to Iowa now. Obviously, when you're in that, you get to that Sweet 16 or that Elite Eight, you're getting more attention. You're on TV more, so that's all going to come naturally. But yeah, I would expect next season for that to flip finally.
Yeah, I don't see how it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then we've got fundamental problems that need to be addressed within the athletic department on getting people to men's basketball games. Now, understandably, and Iowa State gets it too, and they still get people there, but those 8 o'clock games on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night are tough for anybody with any life and family to go to, unless you live right there. And the thing that Iowa State has that Iowa doesn't, now there's a lot of people in Eastern Iowa, but most of the people in Iowa live in Des Moines Metro, and it's a lot easier to get to Ames on a Tuesday night for get home after a 8 o'clock game in Ames to Ankeny than it is Ankeny to Iowa City. I mean, that's just life, and that's not anybody's fault. That's just reality. But and then just the history right now is still on Iowa State's side, but Ben McCollum is the right guy. They made the right hire. There are a lot of people that wanted Darian DeVries, but Beth Getz, who has done a phenomenal job, and as far as I know, has not had any missteps yet. Everything she's done is working correctly and going in the right direction. Obviously, everything can't be fixed in an instant, but she fired Brian Ferentz, and they've been better on offense. She hired Ben McCollum. She's trying to do things to make Carver better. There's certain things you can't do, and just because the building is what it is, but she is trying and getting more, the students closer, some of the fans closer. Just make it as good as she can with what she has. She's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, no, she definitely has. I mean, seems like every decision she makes seems to be the right one. And yeah, with the basketball program now, how much more money is she going to allow, if she has final say on that, or whoever does, to go to NIL for basketball? Because obviously McCollum is probably going to get a raise. That's one thing. But then really the big question is how much money is going to be allocated for recruits and transfers from other college programs, because Iowa's got some players to replace, just like all the teams do, but they've got a big key one to replace in Bennett Sturts, and I don't know how you find another Bennett Sturts. I mean, that's kind of a once in a lifetime player right there for a coach.
Absolutely. Let's just go into that. We'll talk to the Cyclones later. Let's just kind of, obviously recap. We kind of, I kind of did it in my rant where, mediocre to good season, phenomenal ending. And then you kind of touched on it too, and we talked a little bit. But, in realistic terms, somebody on the Iowa basketball team that is a contributor is going to hit the portal. I don't know who that's going to be, but that's just reality in today's basketball world. And then obviously you have to replace Bennett Sturts. And I was listening to a Cyclone podcast today, and they were talking about replacing Jefferson, which we're going to have that conversation here. And they're like, you can't replace him with one guy unless you find another just diamond in the rough. And I would say that's the same thing with Sturts. You can't replace him with one guy. You bring in two guys to do it. One guy be the point guard, and then one guy be a 20-point scorer. And they can play a little point guard. But between the two of them, you average 20 points and 6 assists and very little turnovers and be ball dominant. So what do you think? You can't replace him with one guy. You just try to do it with two. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, unless you get really fortunate to find another Bennett Sturts, which I don't know how many of those type of players are out there, a guy that can basically play every second of every game and then also control McCollum's offense the way he does. And especially when you get to the end of the shot clock, a lot of players panic, and it's just natural, men's or women's. When you get to 5 or 6 seconds left, a lot of players like to rush things, and you watch it all season and last season at Drake too. Bennett Sturts doesn't freak out. He doesn't panic. The shot clock can get down to 2 or 3, and he's still most of the time making the right decision. So I don't know how you find another player like that. That's going to be pretty tough. So it'll probably have to be by committee, and maybe next year, in the next couple of years, Iowa is just a deeper team than maybe they were this year, using more players, more bench players, and trying to find different ways to replace a Bennett Sturts.
Yeah, and then just give him another year in a Big Ten system with Big Ten resources, and I believe he is going to have better players. Now, I will say this. In every game they played to the max, and they didn't look super out of place. But when you watch them warm up, compared to the other teams they were playing, it was a little bit of a mismatch. And that was the same way when I watched Iowa State come out and then I watched Tennessee come out, I was amazed at how big Tennessee was. You hear about it. They go 6'10", 6'11", 6'10". And then, the one guard was 6'1", and I think the other guy was 6'3", which that's fine. But you're like, well, that's big. But Iowa State, now, they could have really used Jefferson because he's 6'9", and they replace him with Heisey that's 6'4", 6'5". But when you go 3 guys that are 6'10", 6'11", 6'10", and that's what we're seeing in the Final Four here with Michigan and Illinois and Arizona and Connecticut. I mean, they're huge. And McCollum just needs to get a little bit better player. But the players he did have this year weren't physically Big Ten ready, but they were mentally, and they knew his system. So he got the most out of them, and it worked because they had the maybe lack of physical ability, but they had the mental ability to do it. Hopefully coming up, they have the physical ability, and then coach can teach them the mental ability, and then that's when they can max out. Now, the problem with McCollum is, and this is just what happens with fans, and that's why fans are fanatics, you set the bar really, really high in year one. You made the Elite Eight. So next year, maybe they have the, 25-7 year, a little bit better, and you get a 6 seed or a 4 seed, and then you lose in the Sweet 16, or maybe you get beat in the round of 32, and you're going to have fans be like, well, why didn't you do what you did last year? That's the one downside to what he's doing is he set the bar really, really high, and it's going to be hard to live up to that every year.
No, it definitely is. And yeah, with what you're talking about, hopefully with McCollum now you'll get better talented players, but hopefully the right players too that can handle his system. They're smart. This Iowa team didn't make a lot of mistakes. I'm sure he's going to be searching for those type of players that are fundamentally sound, don't turn the ball over a lot. And then, setting the bar high, it is what it is. An Elite Eight in the first year. Yeah, next year maybe they have a better regular season record and they lose in the round of 32 or the Sweet 16. He's still bought himself a few years, but if he doesn't get back to the Elite Eight for 4 or 5 years, then the fans might start to get a little irritated, and you'll have those type of discussions. But again, you got to remember what it was like before him. Fran brought the program out of the basement, could never take the next step. Ben McCollum took a couple steps further than Fran did. So we got to give him, obviously, he's going to get plenty of time, but you just hope he's still going to be around in 5 years, obviously with all the offers he's going to get. But yeah, the bar has been set very high. And, you wonder if he gets the right players, if a Final Four is, in the near future. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, but with what he did with this team, the height or the lack of height and maybe talent compared to the other programs, you wonder what he can do with an extra $1 million or $2 in NIL, or just getting the right type of talent that is going to be there for a few years.
Yeah. The sky's the limit. I truly believe that. He's a great coach. He's going to be, Iowa State over the last 10 years has done really well in recruiting and done really well against Iowa in a lot of situations and everything. McCollum's going to be right there. It's going to be a dogfight between him and Otzelberger. As long as those two coaches are there, dogfight for the best players in the state, dogfight every game that they play. And, we really don't know McCollum's overall recruiting strategy. Like Osselberger is Wisconsin. It's Minnesota. It's, he has kind of his places, and then he'll go pick someone from other places. But the best overall, he goes and gets kids out of Wisconsin and Minnesota. And then he's tried to recruit a couple Iowa kids and just hasn't really worked out. Foster went there. Omaha Blue went there, but those haven't really worked out. But the kids that have worked out the best, have been the Ames, Taman Lipsey, and then a lot of those Wisconsin kids have worked out really well, really, really well for them. Does McCollum, with his Northwest roots, Northwest Missouri State, does he try to really get Kansas City? Does he have an inroads with St. Louis? I don't know. And then obviously you just have to go where the best players are that you can get. You have to have the relationships with the transfers. So that's the one thing that I'm just interested to see with McCollum, and it's not right, wrong, or indifferent. He's proven that he wins, and it's going to be great for him. It's just, where is his talent going to come from?
Yeah, that was my first guess. Would probably be Kansas City, St. Louis, and then Chicago. Obviously, the top players from Chicago, they're going to go to the big programs with the money. But can you find those diamonds in the rough, maybe those second or third tier players as far as recruits go? But he sees a future NBA player in him. Can he get those type of guys that come? So, yeah, that's going to be interesting over the next few years to see really where he branches out and what opportunities open up after this Elite Eight run.
Yeah. All right, let's transition to Iowa State here for the next few minutes, and then we'll call our a podcast. We're just short of an hour now. I don't want to go too much over an hour. As I touched on, great season, disappointing finish. Now, the caveat with the disappointing finish is when your All-American best player gets hurt and doesn't play, it does change what could have been. I know excuses, whatever. When you don't have your best player, everything changes. I honestly don't know if they'd have beat Tennessee with him. Tennessee was a bad matchup, just the way they played. Now, this is where the two new coaches and Otzelberger has to look at how they've been beat the last 3 years in the tournament by Tennessee, by Ole Miss, by Illinois. Big length gets them. And so Iowa State needs to get bigger and more athletic. So just like I kind of said, touching on with Sturt's two guys, and I know Brent Bloom said, with Jefferson, you got to replace him with two guys. Go get a 6'9" guy that is a good offensive player, and then go get a 6'10", 6'11" guy that's a great defensive player. And then those two together, because Jefferson was pretty good defense and really good on offense. And then make that one guy. And then, retain everybody else, and then go get one guard that's experienced. Because next year we'll have two sophomore guards, and then there's a couple freshman guards coming in. Need one guard with experience to help just settle everybody down when needed. But Iowa State needs to look in the mirror and decide what they think needs to be done to take that next step. Because as I said, they're 1-7 in the Sweet 16. The 1 year is 2000 when they won. Otzelberger's been to the Sweet 16 3 times, and all 3 times he's been the higher seed. That's the other thing. It's not like they're making a secret run there and then running out of gas and just don't have the horses because they maybe weren't supposed to be there. They've been a 2 or 3 seed. And then I believe the first time when they lost to Miami, they were a 6 or maybe even lower than that. But Miami was like an 11 or 12. And then Illinois was a 6. And then obviously Tennessee was a 6. And then Ole Miss was a 6. That was the second round because they were a 3 seed, but they were 2 seeds against Tennessee and Illinois. So something needs to change a little bit. You don't want to change much, because when you are earning the 2 and 3 seeds, that means you're right around a top 10 team in the country. And that's where you want to be. I mean, and you go win the Big 12 tournament, and all of a sudden you're right on the precipice of a 1 seed, then you're a top 5 team. 2 seed, 3 seed. That's, if you're consistently there, you're going to break through and you're going to do it. But right now there's something missing. And the thing that I've noticed is they have that 4 days. And so that other team is really good. Like when you're playing in the Sweet 16, you're playing a team that is really good or really hot. And sometimes it's both. And most of the time they're a really good coach. And so you play Sunday and you don't play again until Thursday or Friday. So they've got 4 or 5 days to scout you. And so I don't know if Iowa State's too predictable, or they do what they do and they're just going to do it. They don't change anything. So they need to look in the mirror and do a little self-scouting to make it maybe a little bit more difficult for that other team.
Yeah, certainly. And watching that Tennessee game, I mean, Iowa State had 2 critical failures on their team. One on defense, they couldn't protect the rim. It looked like every couple of minutes Tennessee was throwing up a ball and dunking it. And then on the other end, they couldn't make free throws. They had a chance, if they could have made free throws, to really get back in that game. And if you're not going to be able to protect the rim and you can't make free throws, that's just you're almost going to always lose in March Madness. You may get away with that early in the season versus a lesser team, but when you're playing a better team in March, can't protect the rim and can't make free throws, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and I would say actually even more than free throws. Now that was very much a reason that they weren't in the game. I don't know, but the last 3 years with Milan on Silovic, he has not played well in that game, in the final game of the season. So these teams have figured out, if you stop Milan, you beat Iowa State. It came out this week that I think it was announced like he declared for the NBA draft. Well, he's going to test the waters, which he should do. Every junior in America should, because you just get feedback from the NBA, and you go maybe shoot in front of scouts or do things in front of scouts, whatever. But the Iowa State people are very confident that he's probably going to come back, because he's going to be a second-round pick, and he'll make more money from Iowa State or another college than he will going to the NBA. So I assume that he'll be back. I mean, obviously we don't know that until it's said and done, but he's got to figure out, and Iowa State has to figure out how to still get him shots no matter what. He has to shoot the ball 15 times a game for Iowa State to win. Like when they played Arizona down in the Big 12 title game, when I was down there watching it, he was 8 for 12 from 3-point range. So he took 12 shots, whether he made 8 or, a great game, 8 for 12, but he took 12. I don't think he took 12 total shots against Tennessee. When you were down, and he should have been getting a shot in the second half almost every time, is you got to design a play to get him a shot. And he has to demand the ball, and he has to get himself open. Use your teammates, but then you've got to be able to make the moves to get yourself open to get a shot. And that's where hopefully they're self-scouting. And if he comes back, or even if it's not him, your best shooter, you have to get shots. It doesn't have to be Milan. It has to be whoever your guy is. You have to get him shots, because not all the time do you have a guy that you can, and they miss Jefferson, where you give Jefferson the ball and he backs his way in there. Then if everybody crashes and you kick out to a wide open Milan, that's how they want to play. Well, that wasn't in the cards. Either you let Jefferson go one-on-one, or you stick out on Milan and you take that. You have to be able to adjust and get your guy shots. And that's the one thing that the coaching staff needs to do a better job of, in my opinion.
Yeah, he couldn't. It didn't look like he could really get open at all game. I mean, I don't know how many shots he took, but it was very few. And yeah, they really need him there in that second half to make a comeback. So, yeah, for Iowa State and Osselberger, it's like you said, it's a lot of self-scouting. They're close. They've had some really good regular seasons, but can't seem to get over that Sweet 16 hump. So that. I mean, no matter what happens next year, they could win the Big 12 regular season, Big 12 title. If they're a top 1, 2, or 3 seed, if they don't get to the Elite Eight, it's just going to feel like kind of rinse and repeat. It's not a bad rinse and repeat because you're having good seasons, but it is going to feel pretty repetitive, I would say.
Yeah, every year that you don't get there is just going to be like there's something missing, and what is it? And we're on our this was year 5, so this is we're approaching our second generation of students. Like next year if Milan comes back, he'll be there for 4 of the 6 years of Otzelberger. But then once he's done, then it's going to be a whole new crew. I mean, it's every couple of years it's just a new crew of players. So the players aren't the same anymore. It's the coaches, it's the culture, it's the standard. That's the stuff that stays the same. And if you keep coming up short, what's the missing piece?
Yeah, that's going to be their big question of this offseason. And obviously they've got some players to replace, just like Iowa and a lot of other schools do. But yeah, it's a sour taste for them the way this season ended. And like I said, yeah, you could just they kept it close in that first half, but the second half, I mean, just couldn't protect the rim. He couldn't get any shots off, couldn't make any free throws. I mean, it's a bad mixture in a Sweet 16 game.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure in the first half, Iowa State went 100% from the free throw line. And then at the end of the game, they were shooting 60%. Now, I can't not remember. They shot way more in the second half than they did in the first half. So a little bit skewed in that sense. But I believe they were like 4 for 4 or 6 for 6 in the first half. And then like 6 for 15 in the second. I mean, it was bad, and, at one, I remember looking up there at the scoreboard when I was sitting there, and I think they were down 11 or maybe 12. And we had missed a whole, like 4 out of the last 5 free throws. I'm like, even if we didn't make every one, it's 9 with like 9 minutes to go instead of 13. And then now you hit and you have the ball and you hit a 3. Now it's 6, but instead it's 13. Now you miss that shot. They go hit another one at 16 and game over. It's just, you're not going to make every free throw, but you got to shoot. As a team, you need to shoot 70% or better. 60% is bad as a team. And then in critical situations when you're down, you just can't shoot 50% or even less, whatever they shot in the second half the other night.
Yeah, watching that game, I don't know what they were exactly in the second half, but it felt like they were 7 for 27.
Oh,
is what it felt like watching. I mean, they were getting a ton of whistles, and they really could have helped themselves. They could have made a lot more, but it was kind of tough to watch those free throws because every guy that went up, I mean, it felt like they were lucky if they got 1 or 2.
Yeah, and it was our best guys, it was our worst guys. And the other thing, Tennessee has Rick Barnes is a great coach, and he had them ready to go, and he had a game plan that worked really well, and his players executed it. Like you said, they fouled, but they knew who to foul. Buchanan's like a 47% free throw shooter. So, okay, if he's going to get ready to dunk it, just foul the heck out of him, make him earn it at the line. And they had 3-4 big guys that were rotating in, so they didn't care about fouls that much. I'll just bring in another guy. So it was great strategy. And then Lipsey's just not a great free throw shooter, hasn't been all year. Heisey missed a couple. Now, I think Heisey probably on the whole game was probably fine, probably about 70-75%, because he went like 4 for 4 in the first half. But it did seem he went about 50% in the second half when it mattered more. Now, every shot matters and every point matters. So, yeah, it's just sour taste. That's the perfect analogy, is great season but sour taste to end it. And it's becoming a theme, and it needs to the theme needs to end soon.
No, totally agree. I mean, I know we're getting a little bit long here, but before we do get off, let's talk about teams that don't have a sour taste yet.
Yeah.
Want to make our picks for the Final Four?
Yep. Okay, so we got Michigan and Arizona first. And I believe, excuse me, those are the two best teams left. It is a little bit, kind of stinks a little bit that they have to play each other in the semis. Those two teams have played the best. Arizona won the Big 12 conference regular season. They won the Big 12 championship. And for the most part, they've kind of cruised through the NCAA tournament. Now, they've had little bumps in the road, but it's never been really threatened. And Michigan's the same way. Now, Michigan did not win the Big Ten. They got beat by Purdue in the championship game. But in the tournament, they have walked through everybody. And they walked through a lot of teams in the regular season. I remember that tournament out in Vegas that Iowa State was in. They beat Gonzaga by like 40. They've been the best team in the country, or one of the best teams in the country all year. I know they lost to Duke there in January or February, kind of that weird out of conference game there in the late in the year, which dropped them to like 2 or 3 and let Duke be ahead of them the rest of the season. But it's just, those are the two best teams. You said it's like Michigan 1.5 spread. I'm going to take Arizona. I've seen them in person. They have 3 losses on the year, I think. Of course, so does Michigan. I mean, it's not it. I'm going to take Arizona, but if Michigan wins the game, it wouldn't shock me one bit. These are the two best teams.
Yeah, this feels like the natty right here. I'm going to go with Michigan. The Big Ten's had a pretty good run here, obviously, in the tournament. So I'm going to take Michigan with mine.
And that is a big deal for the Big Ten. They still have not won a national championship since 2000, Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big deal for the Big Ten Conference. There's an opportunity here and a real opportunity for Michigan to play Illinois and then obviously guarantee a Big Ten champ. So, and the Big Ten has played really well in this tournament. And, Illinois is really, really good. They're the biggest team. Michigan's been one of the top teams all year. You knew Tom Izzo and Michigan State. They got off to that horrible start against Connecticut, but then made one heck of a comeback and had a shot to tie it at the end and missed it. And Tom Izzo, you can never count out in March. Then obviously Iowa with their magical run. I mean, just unbelievable run for the Big 12 or Big 10 conference.
Yeah, no, it has been, and I'll go first on the second game since you went first on this one. My gut reaction was actually going to take UConn, but now I've been thinking about it a little bit. I wonder how they come back from that wild ending. Can they get up? I mean, obviously he's a maniac. You saw the videos of him with the ref and then his mom in the stands.
Oh yeah, his mom. Can you imagine? Now think about his mom. How many basketball games has she sat through in her life? Her husband's a coach. Her 2 boys were both Division I basketball players, and now they're both coaching. Think about how much time she has sat watching basketball in her life. I mean, unbelievable amounts of time.
Yeah, it's many lifetimes worth of time just for most people. But yeah, this one's really tough. I mean, they're both coin flips. I mean, you can go either way. My initial pick was going to be UConn, but I wonder if they have a little bit of a letdown just after that wild ending. So I'm going to go Illinois with mine.
Okay, well, we're going to be opposite on both. I'm going to take UConn. I think they're a team of destiny. They're going to win 3 out of 4. Actually, that's my call, even though I do think Arizona wins this game, and it's UConn, Arizona. And I think Arizona is the better team, but I think in that game, UConn wins it. So I'm going to actually take UConn to win the whole thing, which is crazy. They'll be 3 out of 4 for Hurley, and that's like 6 or 7 championships all since '99. I mean, it's crazy the amount of dominance that they've had. And then let alone the women are probably going to win it as well. And they've got the same amount, if not more, championships in the same time frame. The basketball dominance in Connecticut is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unmatched right now. And yeah, I definitely could see them winning it all. 3 out of 4 would be just insane in college basketball. So yeah, it almost seems a little unfair that they're so dominant in men's and women's. It's like one of them shouldn't be as good, but they both are. So if Hurley makes a championship, he's going to be a maniac. It'll be good for TV, whether they win or lose this one or win or lose the championship game. He's entertaining, and we need more coaches like that. We need characters, and there's plenty of them. Not every coach needs to be boring and just say the same cliche stuff. We need a few characters here and there.
Who do you think wins it, Trev? So you got Illinois and Michigan. So who do you have Michigan winning it?
I'm gonna take Michigan. Yeah, but obviously, as you said, though, it does feel like Michigan, Arizona might be the actual championship game, even though it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that those are the best two teams, but this tournament doesn't. This is a great tournament. What makes it fun, but it doesn't. Like you said, almost need to do a best of 3 series or something if you wanted to find out who the actual best team is. But that's not this tournament. It's the best team on that given night when needed, and that's how they move on with this tournament. So that's where I think UConn, and it's not like UConn's an underdog anyways. They are top of the heap, and they've been right there all year.
Yeah, 33-5 on the year. They're a 2 seed. So I mean, obviously, this is not. I'm sure Hurley's going to try to play the underdog as much as he can. If they were to make the championship, of course, he'll play that out for every drop that he can. But looking forward to it on Saturday. 2 great games, and hopefully they're both close.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Trev, and we'll talk in a couple of weeks, and obviously we'll talk on chat or whatever. But all right. Thanks, Trev. Anything else real quick before we sign off?
Nope. We'll get heavy into football after the Masters. Yep. And for next week, just enjoy the Masters talk and enjoy the Masters tournament. We'll do our pick-ems like we always do. And that's a great 4 days as well in sports.
Absolutely. All right. We'll talk to you later, Trev.
Have a good night.